The greatest economic war in modern history was built on a lie. For more than a century, we were told there were two choices, capitalism or socialism. One promised freedom and delivered prosperity. The other promised equality and delivered justice. Nations were torn apart, empires crumbled, and millions of lives were sacrificed in the name of this conflict. But the most well-kept secret, the one that political leaders and textbook authors conveniently ignore, is that neither system has ever truly worked as advertised. As not once. In the face of war, famine, and total economic collapse, both ideologies were exposed as dangerously incomplete. Their pure forms were a fantasy, and when pushed to the brink, they revealed a much darker, more complicated truth about power, greed, and human nature itself. The real story isn't about which system won. It's about how both of them failed, and how the survivors were forced to build something new from the wreckage. It all started with the deafening roar of a machine. Before the Industrial Revolution, the economy was a stagnant pond. For thousands of years, wealth was tied to land and bloodlines. Kings owned nations, lords owned fields, and peasants owned little more than the clothes on their backs. Life was a brutal, zero-sum game. For one person to rise, another had to fall. The idea of mass prosperity, of ordinary people becoming rich through ingenuity, was pure fantasy. Then, in the late 1700s, Britain unleashed a force that would shatter the old world forever. Coal, steam, and iron collided with human ambition, and capitalism was born from the fire. Factories rose like dark cathedrals, churning out goods at a speed that was once unimaginable. For the first time, private individuals could amass fortunes that rivaled those of royalty. This new system was an engine of incredible power, generating more wealth and more progress than humanity had ever seen. But this progress came at a horrifying price. Cities swelled into polluted, disease-ridden slums. Men, women, and even small children were forced into 12-hour shifts in treacherous factories. Fortunes were built on the broken backs of an expendable workforce. Capitalism was efficient, yes, but it was also cruel, chaotic, and fundamentally unstable. It created a world of stark, horrifying contrasts, unimaginable luxury on one side, and desperate, grinding poverty on the other. It was in this crucible of suffering that a new, radical idea began to take shape, an idea that promised to burn it all down. Staring into the heart of this industrial darkness, thinkers like Karl Marx saw a system that wasn't just unfair, it was a crime. To them, every dollar of profit was stolen from the labor of the working class. They argued that the entire structure of private ownership was a form of organized theft, a system designed to funnel wealth upwards while leaving the masses with nothing. Their solution was as simple as it was revolutionary. What if the workers owned the factories? What if production was planned for human need, not for private profit? This was the dream of socialism, a world without exploitation, without the violent cycles of boom and bust, where society was organized rationally for the benefit of all. It was an incredibly seductive vision, a promise of justice and dignity for the millions being crushed by the gears of early capitalism. It sounded clean, moral, and inevitable. But history has a brutal way of testing beautiful theories. And the first time socialism was put into practice, it wasn't in a sterile laboratory. It was in the blood-soaked chaos of a collapsing empire. When Lenin and the Bolsheviks seized power in Russia in 1917, they inherited a nation on its knees. The country was a vast, impoverished, and largely illiterate expanse, shattered by war and famine. In this vacuum, they attempted the world's most ambitious social experiment. The state seized everything. The land, the banks, the factories, the market was abolished. Bureaucrats in Moscow would now decide what to produce, where to send it, and what it would cost. It was a top-down redesign of human society. But what was supposed to create perfect efficiency instead created a nightmare. Without prices to signal what people actually wanted, planners were flying blind. They ordered factories to produce tractors that no one could use and shoes that didn't fit. Without the motive of profit or the threat of competition, innovation died on the vine. The result was catastrophic shortages of nearly everything. The new system, designed to serve the people, couldn't even feed them. The great socialist experiment quickly descended into famine and chaos, forcing Lenin himself to retreat and allow a limited return of private trade just to stave off total collapse. The dream of a workers' paradise had crashed head-on into reality. But that wasn't the end of the story, because capitalism was about to have its own spectacular flameout. As the Soviet Union was struggling to survive its own creation, capitalism was partying like there was no tomorrow. The 1920s in America were a decade of wild, unrestrained excess. The stock market soared to dizzying heights, fueled by speculation and cheap credit. It seemed as though the system was an unstoppable wealth creation machine, proving its superiority once and for all. But beneath the glittering surface, the engine was overheating. Wealth was becoming dangerously concentrated. Industries were dominated by powerful monopolies. The entire global economy was becoming a casino where the rich placed bets with other people's money. This reckless instability finally detonated in 1929. The US stock market crash wasn't just a downturn. It was a complete system failure. It triggered the Great Depression, an economic heart attack that spread across the globe. Banks vanished overnight, taking people's life savings with them. Unemployment skyrocketed to an unthinkable 25%. Families lost their homes, farms were foreclosed, and a sense of profound despair settled over the Western world. To millions of desperate people, it looked like Karl Marx had been right all along. Capitalism seemed inherently self-destructive, a system programmed to periodically tear itself apart. By the 1930s, the world was trapped between two deeply flawed models. Socialism, in its only real-world test, had produced tyranny and scarcity. Capitalism, left to its own devices, had produced a catastrophic collapse. Neither path looked safe. It was a stalemate of failure. And then a global war erupted that would force every nation to show its hand and put its system to the ultimate test. World War II was more than a military conflict. It was a brutal, high-stakes economic showdown. Under the existential pressure of survival, the true nature of each system was laid bare. The Soviet Union, for all its glaring inefficiencies, demonstrated the terrifying power of total state control. Stalin was able to mobilize the entire nation with a speed and single-mindedness that stunned the world. Every factory, every farm, and every citizen was conscripted into the war effort. It was clumsy and wasteful, but it was also brutally effective, allowing the USSR to withstand the Nazi onslaught and eventually push back. On the other side, the United States performed an equally shocking transformation. The capitalist nation, which had been paralyzed by the Depression just a few years earlier, morphed into an industrial juggernaut. The government didn't seize the factories, but it coordinated them, pouring massive federal contracts into private companies like Ford and General Motors to build tanks, planes, and ships at a staggering rate. It was a hybrid model. The innovative power of private enterprise fused with the strategic direction of a centralized state. The war proved that in a crisis, pure ideology was a luxury no one could afford. The Soviets had to be ruthlessly pragmatic, and the Americans had to become partially planned. When the dust settled in 1945, the old debate was no longer about abstract theories. It was about results. It was about which system could build more, grow faster, and deliver a better life for its people. The Cold War had begun, and the entire planet became a laboratory for two competing experiments in human organization. For the next 4 decades, the world watched as the two superpowers engaged in a grand competition. On one side was the Soviet bloc, a world of central planning and suppressed markets. On the other was the West, a world of regulated capitalism, where private enterprise was the engine, but governments provided social safety nets, unemployment benefits, public healthcare, and pensions, lessons learned the hard way during the Great Depression. In the early years, the Soviet model seemed to be working. The USSR, rebuilt from the war, industrialized at a blistering pace, and achieved scientific marvels like Sputnik. It looked like a genuine alternative, a different path to modernity. But beneath the propaganda posters of smiling workers, the system was rotting from within. Because central planners had no real information about what the economy needed, absurdities became normal. Factories would produce thousands of left-footed shoes to meet a quota. Farmers would let crops rot in the fields because the state-run distribution system was broken. The Soviet Union could build nuclear missiles and send men to space, but it couldn't produce a decent pair of jeans or a reliable toaster. A new elite class of Communist Party officials emerged, enjoying privileges and access to goods the average citizen could only dream of. The system designed to eliminate class had just created a new one. Meanwhile, capitalism was proving to be surprisingly adaptable. It absorbed the lessons of the Depression, using regulation and social spending to smooth out its roughest edges. It didn't become perfectly fair, but it became stable enough to deliver decades of rising living standards. By the 1980s, the contrast was impossible to ignore. The West was a world of color, consumer choice, and technological innovation. The Soviet bloc was a world of grey conformity and empty shelves. The Cold War wasn't ultimately won with tanks or bombs, it was won in the supermarket aisles. When the Berlin Wall finally fell, it wasn't pushed over by an invading army. It was torn down by people who were tired of waiting in line for bread while watching a better world on the other side of the fence. Capitalism, it seemed, had won, but the victory party was about to be cut short. The fall of the Soviet Union was treated as the final, definitive answer. History, some declared, was over.